Hello and welcome back to BTA exclamation mark better than adventure. So yeah, I'm continuing the build from last time. This is gonna be a fancy way of going downstairs. Ooh, so cool, going downstairs. Everybody likes going downstairs, except if you go down them upside down, then it hurts, and then you can break your spine and die. But assuming you're going down the stairs in the government mandated way, uh, it's a fun time until you trip and break your spine again. But in the last episode, what I was talking about was, well, a whole range of random topics that kind of popped into my mind, kind of like a bit like I was insane. But I'm back, so let's talk about some more stuff. In the last episode, yeah, fuck it, I'll do it this way. I don't care. In the last episode, one of the things that crossed my mind was, well, there were a few things, but one of the big things was the idea that Minecraft is kinda, at least the modern Minecraft, isn't as mysterious. And then I meandered off my own point for the rest of the video, but I thought about it for a little bit harder. And I feel like it really is like 85% a me thing. Right? Like 85% of the reason that I don't feel like modern Minecraft is as unnerving is a me thing. But I feel like I thought about this in the short pause between the video and this episode. I thought to myself, wait a minute. There is a really big difference between old and new Minecraft, and it really is sprinting. Because if you think about it, right? In the old Minecraft, I guess no, in the new Minecraft, right? What happens when there's a threat? You can sprint away from it. But in new Minecraft, in new Minecraft, you can sprint away from it. But if you play old Minecraft, there is no running. There is only fear. I feel like that's one of the big things which helps old Minecraft kind of be a little bit scarier. It's the fact that everything sort of feels smaller but larger. I can't run away from the boogeyman as easily here. If I see Herobrine, I am going to have to walk away at a relatively meandering pace. You know? And I feel like that's a part of the... I feel like that's just really important in terms of the game balance overall, but it also just makes the game scarier. What else was there? Oh, yeah. So I was gonna mention the Herobrine stuff. So the first few Herobrine sighting videos are, like, really bad. I made an entire video on this, where I just reacted to some of the really old videos because it's free real estate. And, they're bad. But they're bad in a way that, like, you can't help but love them. You know? They're just like... It has Meet the Spy music. That is fucking funny as shit. But yeah. That was for the old stuff. But then came the newest stuff. Along came Josh. That's a terrible way of saying it. But yeah. Josh's videos were kind of interesting because I'm pretty sure... I don't know how influential they were in the grand scheme of things, but they were the thing which not only... Because I think I've known of Herobrine before, but I never really took it that seriously until I watched the Along Came Josh video and was thoroughly convinced. So what he did was he used some website to add, like, fake corruptions to his videos, and he just decided to make a short survival series where he ends up, like, getting haunted. And the way in which he gets haunted was really cool. Because the video is a very linear, in a sort of sense where... Okay, so basically, like, what happens is in one video, right? oh, it's Herobrine, and then, you know, oh, he crashes it. But then he, like, you know, he analyzes the recording. Oh, see what happens, and Herobrine, he needs help. And it was all terrifying. He was building a narrative. One of the good things that I think he did was he specifically added, like, sightings in the video that he didn't comment on. Like, if Herobrine was up here when I was walking and down there, I would only mention he was up there. So the viewers themselves could be like, hey, wait a minute, this may be legit. He just didn't see him in this other part of the video. And I think that was just a really smart idea. And then the story begins to fall apart the moment you try to add any kind of extra narratives, because what Josh did was he saw his genius idea. Anyway, he said, wait a moment. Herobrine needs some reasons, and he was like, okay, so I'm gonna invent a new creepypasta. I'm gonna call him Null. And Herobrine is actually the good guy. And Null is the bad guy who Herobrine is trying to warn us, but the issue is that Herobrine is corrosive or something. He didn't use the term corrosive, I don't believe. And that's why the game crashes. And, I'm gonna be honest, it did work on me, a little bit, but I feel like whenever you try to add narratives to it, it kind of falls apart. I feel like this is not only a Herobrine problem, it's a problem with every single creepypasta ever made. Oh yeah, I'm gonna need a lot more slabs. Hold on. The moment you try to take a creepypasta and add, like, lore to it, give it free will or whatever, the more you try to explain it, the less scary it becomes. Specifically with Herobrine, I think every single time I say it, there's like a 1 in 10,000 chance he spawns and, like, twerks on the camera and gets me banned from YouTube. But the issue is, whenever Herobrine pops up in stories, it's always like, oh yeah, Mr. Heroin Brine. If he was actually the good guy, why would you set my house on fire? You know, it's all this stuff. And none of it can really be, you know, quote-unquote explained. A funny story, this, I used this in a video quite a few videos ago. This is running on a private server that I just put up because I feel like it's easier to manage the save file when it's running on a local server, and it also means that if the game crashes, the server will still run and nothing will be lost. But what that has resulted in is, I had at least one comment every single time I mentioned this that's like, oh, can I join the server? No. There was one video where one of my friends did join, and he, like, built a few things and then left. On a piece of land far away. And then I decided to just, like, go there for a bit of an episode. But that's like a special occasion thing for, like, people who I know personally. It's not a... I feel like opening up my stupid survival world to the internet, it just sounds like a dumb idea. And yeah, like, I was thinking about this for a while. Just, like, what makes Herobrine Herobrine? And I feel like you really can't do Herobrine, you know? Because I feel like, I don't know, it's weird. It's a mob which doesn't fit in with the rest of the game in a way that would make sense for anything but a creepypasta. And because of that, whenever people try to fit him in, he's always gonna kind of seem like, you know, he shouldn't really be here. Like, an example I'm thinking of is... I forgot, did I place them up there? Maybe you can get away with Herobrine if you, like, set it up in a way where he was a distant observer. But how do you do that? I've seen a lot of mods try, like, you know, I think From the Fog, that's what the mod is called. But I've seen mods with modern Minecraft try to make him kind of spooky and kind of creepy. None of them really work. None of them. I feel like what specifically makes Herobrine is the fact that he is so extraordinarily rare that you don't really, you know, think about his existence until you begin getting haunted. You know, because a lot of the time, whenever you install the fucking scary mod, it's like, oh, look, guys, the fucking butthole dweller is finally scaring me. Yay, I can cut out the 3 hours of the video before the mod kicks in, you know? But when you're actually... I feel like the reason why Herobrine works as a scary story is specifically because he is in the game. I mean, he isn't. But because the story puts him as not a virus... Like, you know, he isn't a virus. He isn't an evil, malicious player, Entity 303 style. He isn't some kind of devil, evil spirit. I guess he's Herobrine's... You know, Herobrine is not just... But it's implied that Herobrine is just a thing in the game that you can encounter very rarely. He's like if Markiplier never found Golden Freddy. Or like, okay, imagine if Golden Freddy had like a 1 in a million chance of spawning and not like the 1 in 10,000 chance. So Markiplier would never see him, the other YouTubers would never see him, you know, from everybody who played the game. And then, like, the only way you could see him is by doing a completely accidental chain of events. And then, like, you know, there would be rumors that, oh my god, there's this weird-looking thing that, you know, oh, it crashes the game because it's a yellow, he's like a Golden Freddy. Oh, wait a minute. But, yeah. I feel like the only way I could realistically see Herobrine working is if he was added to the game proper in a way where you couldn't, like, fight him. Like, okay, it's kind of like Voices of the Void. The reason why so many of the scares work in Voices of the Void is specifically because you have no real recourse against them, except just fucking praying. You know, it's not like, you just kind of have to hide, you have to, like, you know, you can't really fight back, is what I mean. But I think the main thing, the main benefit of the Voices of the Void enemies is the fact that they are all in one complete package, you know? And you don't really know what's been added. If Voices of the Void was designed like a mod for an existing game, like if you could imagine Voices of the Void itself was just like a signal scanning game, and the creepy shit was a mod, you could probably, like, have situations where people would be like, well, I mean, it's fine, but it's not that scary. Because people would be used to it. But when you're playing, you know, people would kind of expect the scary mod for a game to add scary stuff. But, when I'm just doing my fucking, like, scanning, and I hear grinding noises and, like, clop, 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 something is walking outside, and I just fucking crouch jump onto the fucking furniture, and, like, you know, into the server room just so I can hopefully hide from whatever the fuck is happening, from whatever is trying to eat me, even if nothing is there. I feel like that's not something you can accomplish without you know, without some kind of forced engagement in a way which mods can't do. Because whenever you install a mod, like, unless the mod has hidden scary stuff it doesn't tell you about, you already know what you're kind of signing up for. Not if it's random. And yeah, maybe for some people, especially for children, I mean, I understand why Mojang would never add Herobrine. Notch himself said that if he wanted to add something like Herobrine, he should have added it really early on, and I think he was fully sort of correct in that. Because, just imagine if, right? Obviously, it would take a lot of coding to make something like Herobrine function in Minecraft, right? Oh yeah, I forgot to set more stone to cook. That's gonna take some time now. But yeah, imagine if you were playing Minecraft, like, back in the day, right? And you were doing whatever. And then you see this guy in the, distance in the fog. This is also why I think Better Than Adventure could actually be an interesting platform for some of the more scariest stuff, because it has stuff like fog. But, just imagine you see something or someone in the distance and you're like, what? What? This is a single-player world, right? And then you check and you're like, well, yeah. Wait a minute. If this is a single-player world, then who's that there? And then you go onto the forums, or I guess these days the Discord, and you're like, hey, there's a player in my world. And then the developer is like, well, you're playing multiplayer, right? And the guy's like, no, he's in my single-player world, look. And the developer would be like, look, when you're playing a single-player version, you're probably, like, running it on a local server or something. When you're playing the single-player version of the game is designed in such a way where it is, like, literally impossible for another client, or, like, another player to, connect to your game. I do not know what that is. I'm going to check the code. And it's like, oh yeah, I found nothing. I don't understand what that is. And you could, do you have any mods installed? You could fuck with plays. You could do a lot of stuff. Though, to be fair, there's one other element that I have to talk about, and it's tech savviness. Back when Herobrine was popular, even the developers of mods back then were a lot less skilled than, a lot of people are today. You gotta realize, like, we're talking about the back in the day when being viral meant having 1 million views on YouTube, That was ancient times compared to today. These days, what, 1 million views? Yeah, what, like, Markiplier released his new video? Back in the day, the internet was smaller. People knew a lot less, and, this kind of stuff could just happen. Actually, these days, you would have investigative journalist YouTubers being like, oh yeah, this is actually, I actually delved into the code of the game, and, they're lying. Here's the code. Here's exactly what this guy does. And I feel like that's a part of the equation for scary stuff as well. I know people like me would specifically, purely out of the respect for the developers, not try to shit on the parade by opening up the game's code and reading it. But I feel like, these days people are gonna be super annoying about that sort of stuff, and I completely get not wanting to deal with, like, the stupidest backlash known to man for no other reason than because you wanted to add a scary thing to the game and then, like, play with the community. Oh, and also, like, there would be people who would think that it was some kind of ARG or whatever. It's just, I understand why developers don't want to do it. Plus, like, there's obviously a lot of players who play this as a relaxing sort of version of Minecraft, and adding the, adding monsters that are scary would probably go against that. Though it would be cool to add some kind of, like, phantoms. Not the 1.14 kind. I mean, like, I feel like one interesting mob we could have is, like, a physical... You could have, like, a sanity system, right? Where for the longer you are in the darkness, as your mood... Like, it'd be a sort of like the cave noises meter, but only in the direct circle around the player. And the idea would be that if you stay in the caves for too long without coming out, and if you're in the darkness for way too long, you're gonna start seeing shit. And some of that shit'll be scary. And I understand maybe some people would have problems with this. I know I would. But that's the fun of it. But oh well, people these days don't even like friction in their video games, so why would I expect them to want, scary things in their video games? I'm not joking about them not wanting friction, by the way. It's happened over and over and over again. Developers are like, hey, we're doing something. And you see people who are like, well, can I please have a version of this game where I can just win and not do any of the work? Like, at that point, watch a video on YouTube, I know there's a meme, because recently there was some quote-unquote fans of Resident Evil who were like, oh, I can be a Resident Evil fan without ever playing the fucking games. And no, you can't. Video games are an interactive medium. You have to play them in order to be a fan of something that you have, But, yeah. Like, at the end of the day, literally nothing ever is going to be as cool as that short span of time when people weren't 100% sure if Herobrine was real or not. In terms of, like, spooky Minecraft things. Purely because even if the myth itself was kinda shitty, there was still something really appealing in the idea of having a mob which is just kind of there, A mob that is completely, sort of weird, that you don't really know why he's there. That kind of stuff was actually really compelling, and it still is. It's still compelling. The issue just is, there's only so much you can really do in something like Minecraft. And, yeah, like, what can you really do? I mean, I know what I can do. I can make fun of the people who thought it was real, like myself. But oh well. I'm just, I don't know, I'm not a very big fan of a lot of the babyification of horror stuff, I guess. You have, like, horror for children, horror for younger children, that sort of stuff. Things aren't scary in the way they used to be, These days, in order for someone to consider a game scary, it needs to have, like, a large cartoon character going, ooh, at you. And that's literally the only way some people will accept a game is scary. What do you mean? This has a horror beyond my comprehension stalking me throughout the game. Where's the funny cartoon character who opens his mouth very wide and swallows me whole every single time he catches me? And, there's no fixing that. There's no way to go back to, pre-FNAF times. I'm sorry. And it is kind of funny. I've never played any FNAF games. I watched Markiplier play quite a few of them. But that's because I'm interested in watching Markiplier play weird horror stuff and not... I guess I was at one point. I've only ever rewatched him play the weird fan games as of late because Five Nights at Wario's is really funny. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe you could argue that the reason why a lot of horror games went to shit was because YouTube made it so you can watch them. You know, you can kind of get the gist of them without playing them. And then games like FNAF made it so the main appeal of the horror game was not the game itself, but the lore. And the gameplay was there just so you don't, like, fall asleep while the content delivery pipe is, giving you sweet lore information. Maybe? I mean, I can see that as an argument for why FNAF is the reason why, like, you know, things... Because, yeah, definitely, at the very least, FNAF made it so people stopped wanting stories and started wanting lore. And the issue with lore is that it's just not as interesting as a good story. Like, I mean, you can have the best sort of lore, but it's not gonna be as good as Resident Evil 2, the original. Purely because, you know, in Resi 2, you're just a guy, and the way you, like, you know... I guess Resident Evil 1, too, if, you know, wow, what a mansion! And that sort of stuff. But, I don't know. Maybe it's, like, me being old. Well, not even old, but, like, me feeling old. I guess it's because I fell into the hole of, you know, whenever you're growing up, sometimes you get an interest for things that, because it's kind of like, oh yeah, born in the wrong generation or whatever stuff. I feel like it's kind of funny because with the internet, it is extremely easy to become interested in stuff that, like, generations previous to yours were interested in. Way more easy than it was before, purely because, I mean, it's so accessible, and there are a lot of people who you can talk with about it. One big thing that is kind of disappointing, for me at least, is that for so many of the things which I'm kind of interested in, I will never be able to see them in a, like, neutral sort of state. Because anything I can already, you know... One thing that I recently kind of fallen in sort of love with, I guess, even if it's really difficult and I don't get very far in them, is the Kingsfield series. I've put, like, 10 hours into Kingsfield 4 or whatever. I don't know. It's kind of a really difficult game. But the thing is, I can never look at Kingsfield in a vacuum, you know? I can only look at it in the context of, this is a From Software game that was released before, you know, they got big. And because of that, whenever anybody talks about it, it's always in the context of, hey, have you seen the weird stuff FromSoft was making before they had, you know, before Dark Souls came out? Some YouTubers even go out on a limb and say that From Software's first, you know, From Software used to make these weird old shitty games, and then... How do I make... Oh! And it's a wooden pressure plate as well. But yeah, like, it's one of those things where... I mean, you've probably seen people talk about them that way, right? Like, And I'll be honest, a lot of their old games are weird, but that's what makes them special. If their old games weren't weird, well, it wouldn't be very fun to talk about them, would it? I feel like a lot of people these days will kind of gloss over a lot of older games, especially like older unforgiving games, and From Software games are definitely in that sort of boat. But it kind of sucks because even as somebody who sucks ass at like a lot of games, including the From Software ones, I found them really fun and engaging. Sure, like you'll probably get stuck a lot, and I literally played the Kingsfield 4 game with the Prima strategy guide open on one of my fucking monitors. Cause I try to do games guideless most of the time until I get stuck. And this one time, okay, so there was this so when you go down, you know when you meet that one lady next to the first pool of like infinite liquid where you can refill your flasks. I know, you know, Dark Souls fans, flasks, Estus, sort of like that, I think. I'm sorry, I've never played the modern Souls games. But yeah, you have these flasks you can refill, which are going to basically, you know, they're flasks which can be refilled, and they can heal you or whatever. In this case, this only heals mana, but that's fine because there's an earth spell that heals you for really cheap, so you just have to top up on mana and then use the spell to heal yourself. But yeah, as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by myself. What's gonna happen is you're gonna run into the situation where the game is gonna be like, hey, you go, oh wait, I should go down and see the ratio of how many minecart, like, rails to powered rails. So yeah, sure, whatever. I'll go and check. It's fine. Like, you're gonna run into situations where, so there was this one crypt, and I fought off the skeletons, and I thought I missed something because I needed a key that I didn't have. And I interacted with a bunch of stuff there. Okay, it's 3 per 1. Okay. And I couldn't figure out how to progress. And so I look up the strategy guide, and it turns out that I was interacting with the thing incorrectly. What I should have done is go up to the thing on the side and open it, because I can only interact with it on its side. And I was coming at it straight ahead, and then I was trying to interact with it there. But no, you can only do it on its side. And that is basically how I fucked up with that. Okay, actually for this I'm just gonna fully power them. Because, you know, it's a smarter move than not doing so. But yeah, and the end result of that was basically just me, getting semi-stuck, I guess. But it was whatever, because, I mean, at the end of the day, I got through it. But, yeah. The funny thing is, with From Software games, right? And this is something which I really wish more people understood. A lot of their old games were really, really just not appreciated for years. And then even when Demon's Souls came out and then Dark Souls, people acted like From Software just randomly, like they were this failing little company in Japan who just didn't know how to make good games, and then randomly, you know, they just realized, wait a minute, what if we made a game and called it Dark Souls? Well, I guess Demon's Souls first, but you know, it's like, people act like they just randomly came up with, like, a revolutionary idea, and that there was literally no, you know, previous attempt at making a game, that there was literally no, you know, you know what I mean. It's just dumb. And sadly, that is an opinion. Oh, I see, this one goes for one further. Okay. And sadly, it is an opinion which people hold, as dumb as it may be. But, like, there's really not much you can do about it. I mean, I like them. And I suck at video games, so... I mean, if I could enjoy them, that probably means they're really good, right? Yeah, oh, I mean, obviously. But I find it kind of interesting how developers back then were just kind of not appreciated if their stuff was kind of hard. I know these days, right? People like to still complain about video gaming journalists or whatever, right? But back in the day, things were so much worse. Where, like, you would have some publications who sometimes basically didn't even play the game they were reviewing. They basically played it for, like, 10 minutes and that was that. Because the standards for quality were in the fucking dirt. And from back then to even today, even if they may make some fumbles from time to time, IGN does a remarkably solid job at, reviewing video games. There are some games which they've reviewed that have, like, gotten them dragged through the mud. But, like, I can't not be on their side. One example of that is their review of this indie hit called, Alien Isolation. That got them into a lot of trouble with gamers because they gave it a lower score than people wanted. I didn't like the game, and I completely agreed with it. You know that one review of, Pokemon? Yeah. It does have too much water. If you play the game, you'd know. There are genuinely too many water-type Pokemon. There are so many water outs that are kind of really alike that it gets a little bit boring. And you'd know. If you played Pokemon, the Hoenn games, the IGN review was pretty damn accurate. But no, there are, like, YouTube video gaming journalists who love shitting on, you know, internet website video game journalists when they're no better. Like, I know there are some journalists who've gone independent or whatever, and then it's like, oh yeah, the new Pokemon video game? I sure as hell, yeah, I played it, definitely. What is my score of the new Pokemon game? Well, I'm gonna ride the wave of popularity. Oh, it's a 4 out of 10, guys. It's a 4 out of 10. Ignore anything that, like, the other reviewers or the people who played the game said. It's a 4 out of 10. I do find it kind of funny. It is kind of why I've lost respect for some, like, people on YouTube, where, like, in order for them to get the bag, they're going to start, just kind of saying shit which, they see as popular. And, it is just kind of disappointing. Like, you know, and it's funny with Pokemon, right? Because the average Pokemon hater doesn't actually like Pokemon. I know, astounding research from me, but the average Pokemon hater doesn't like JRPGs, doesn't like games with turn-based combat, that kind of combat in general, games with RPG stories, or whatever else. The issue is, like, when you're reviewing a game, you should at the very least like the genre of the game that you're reviewing, because if you... How do I explain this, right? If you aren't a fan of RPGs, of games which have, like, you know, those kinds of mechanics, creature collecting and such, why are you playing Pokemon? Maybe you're a fan of the idea of a Pokemon game, you know, like a Gen 1er, but you hate the guts of every single creature collector, because what you actually like is the feeling you got from playing those games as a kid, and not the actual, games themselves. But yeah, like, it's like if you got me to review FIFA games, right? I would give, like, fucking... I mean, in general, like, I would probably give out a few 6 out of 10s to, like, the PS2 games, and, like, 4 out of 10s to everything else, and that'd be that. And people would ask, why did you review games which you yourself have literally zero interest in? And the answer is, because I'm stupid. And that's kind of the reason why you would review a game which you yourself don't even enjoy the genre of. But, you know, on the internet, if you want to review a game, you better ensure that you're, you know, you have to make sure that when you're reviewing something that at the very least you sort of enjoy it, because otherwise it's just going to be a really shitty review. I mean, it happens with Pokemon, it happens with other series. It happened with From Software games for a while, where people were like, oh, this game blows, until it suddenly got popular to like FromSoft games, and then they were like, you know, I think this game is a hidden gem. And that's kind of how the story goes of every single hidden gem. It was only a hidden gem because people claimed it was bad for a while. I mean, you've seen it with the Earth Defense Force games, right? Like, there are people who absolutely hate the EDF games, right? Like, people who hate the fact the story is completely fucking stupid. People who hate that the voice acting and dialogue is atrocious. The people who despise the fact that, so much of the content is basically recycled from the previous games. But if you ask a fan of the EDF why they play EDF games, they're gonna say, because of all the things you just listed wrong with them. Because, yeah, it's kind of like how some people hate the stories in Resident Evil games, but I would be really disappointed if they had, like, a Resident Evil game with a story that wasn't shit. Because that's kind of what I've come to expect. It's like a B-movie. You watch it because it's entertaining, and sometimes a little bit scary, not because you want to watch some kind of masterpiece. And I watch Defense Force for the same reason I'd watch a fucking cheesy kaiju movie. Because it's fun. And I feel like Pokemon is in the same boat, where a lot of people want it to become a more serious game, when in reality all the games have done for the last, like, 5 years was try to become more serious more seriously Pokemon games. With Legends Arceus, I think that was the most obvious, where they went for an actually sort of serious story. They went with a really interesting setting, they went with new mechanics, and I think it all works really well, because it was before, the, like, hate manga wave of, Pokemon Bad really got going. And sadly, with the way things have gone, we're never gonna get out of the wave. I don't know for how long it'll last, but I feel like, until, like, people get bored, and people don't get bored these days very easily. I mean, they do, but not of this sort of stuff. I feel like we're gonna be seeing people talking shit about anything Pokemon related for a while. Like, there was the Generation 10, like, release trailer video, and people were complaining about the fucking ground texture looking kind of mediocre. Not even bad, just, oh, the ground texture's mediocre, this game's gonna suck. Quickly, make 10 videos on the game. And it is kind of funny. But again, like, can you do it to a series I don't like? No, like, seriously. This video's dragged on for long enough, though, so catch you all next time. See, I can say it in a different way. I don't have to say goodbye every time. Yeah, goodbye.